eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is in polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
What the hell is going on, everyone? Thank you for being here. Happy Sunday or happy Monday, depending on where you are in the world. It's Weird Week, and it has certainly been a weird week. That's a great way to describe it. My first week here in Bali, and we've been fine-tuning a few things with the live stream, and I have a very good feeling, actually, that today's live stream is going to go off without a hitch. Now, I don't want to jinx it, but I feel like today's stream is going to be much smoother than the previous two. So I'm going to keep my fingers and toes crossed, and hopefully we get through this without a problem. So we are, traditionally on Weird Week, we kind of look at a whole bunch of different clips, but in today's show, we are basically just farming Danny Jones and his podcast with Matt LaCroix, which was honestly fantastic, and it is linked below. It's about, from memory, I think it's a little bit over 3 hours. We're going to be looking at about 25 to 30 minutes of it today, across 4 different clips. But honestly, if you like these clips, and I think you guys are going to like these clips, you should go and check out the whole thing. And the reason why I'm so excited to get into this one is because Matt LaCroix he studies a lot of the ancient civilizations, and he believes that they had access to a very advanced technology and advanced knowledge. And a lot of the things that he talks about kind of aligns with the things that we talk about on this channel, okay? But he is able to link them together because this is what he does. So a lot of the things that we talk about on this channel, we kind of run on vibes a little bit, things that seem like they make sense, things that we can't really prove. However, Matt LaCroix links them together with a little bit more knowledge behind it, okay? And he has a theory that kind of strings everything together, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy this because, like I said, it touches on a lot of the topics that we cover on the channel regularly. Just before we do, though, Jan Jenkins, you little freak, thank you for becoming a member at 1 o'clock in the morning today. You are a legend. Thank you very much. Yvonne Pandora, celebrating 1 month as a member, says, Josh, are you still shipping merch? How about to the US? Absolutely. I don't have the on-screen ad anymore, but the link is below. You can go to the Polarity merch store, get yourself some merch there. It actually ships from the US. Okay, so I don't handle the shipping myself. It printed and shipped in the US. So if you're purchasing from the US or Canada, you'll probably receive the merch very quickly. T-Mad, celebrating 4 months, says, I can taste the gold trim incoming. Let's get it, weirdos. Thank you very much. You are getting close. 2 more months, and you are going to be trimmed up, looking smart. And Arcades has gifted a membership. Arcades, thank you. You legend. And Barbados gifted 5. All right. What a way to start the show. Thank you very much, guys. Let's get some love in the chat for those new weirdos. You have access to members-only content and the members section of our Discord, which is, after taking the 2025 general survey of Discords and online places to hang out, it actually came out on top as the best place on the internet to hang out. The link for that is below. So let's jump over here to the Polarity TV. I think I feel like there was something else I wanted to tell you guys about before we got started. Maybe not. If it comes to me, we'll just stop in the middle of the show and do it. But otherwise, Josh, where's your Bintang singlet? There will be no Bintang singlets here, sir. That's not my style. Okay, that's not my style. I'll leave that to the over 50s. I'll leave that to the over 50s on the beach, on their little holidays. Okay, that's not my style. What's up, Bali Polarity? What is going on, Stevie? Nice to see you here, brother. All right, let's get into this first clip. So I guess I kind of gave you guys a little overview if you don't know who Matt LaCroix is. I think this is probably going to be the best clip to introduce it, and then we'll kind of make our way through things from there. Josh, you need to adjust your cam so you can see your face better. You guys, so I'm going to have a new video coming up on my channel on my other channel in the next couple of days that kind of shows you my setup. And when you see the setup, you'll understand why the camera is this way. I'm working with what I've got here. You guys will see in a couple of days.
A lot of like Vedic and Hindu traditions talk about technologies. They show them, they talk about them. And it's not only that area, but a lot of others. I'll give you an example. The story of Viracocha out of South America. He is told to have arrived in the shores with a group, and they initially were not receptive to him. And so it's described very well that he simply did a magic trick for them, like actually moved something or created something out of thin air. That's how it's described. And so when they saw that, they bowed down and said, like, we'll follow you. And that same story is echoed in other places too. I'm sure you know, in the Aztec realm, it was Quetzalcoatl was their dragon.
This is
god.
Prometheus. This is Enki. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. And in the Maya, it's Kukulkan.
Right.
And then we see that same equivalent in other parts of the world, like Thoth in Egypt and Hermes.
So we're already touching on the things that we yap about all the freaking time, which is the fact that, like, you know, every ancient civilization seems to be speaking of the same story. They have the same themes. A lot of serpent/reptile worship, and they all seem to be talking about the same thing, but just through a slightly different perspective.
In Greece, and what it all comes back to is they all are described as being magic. All of them. Every single one of them is described as being magic and being able to create and demonstrate things in front, and then the people followed and they taught them. They taught them everything. And then they left. This is the interesting thing. It's described as them creating places and then leaving.
Right.
And then leaving the people that are there to be the caretakers of them. But the people that were caretakers often, they succumb to violence and ways that it wasn't never meant to be. That's why the Maya and the Aztec were so violent, because it was never intended like that. And originally they went through periods of climate disruptions with crops and things, and they did blood sacrifice and things like that. But the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of those ancient cultures never started that way. A lot of other cultures came later that were just shadows of their former self. You know, and it's sad that they're the ones that are being given credit for such amazing things, and they're not the ones who, you know, really built any of them.
Right.
But that's where we are now, is separating what is just more primitive later cultures that get all this credit, and then showing where it should appropriately be, which is basically like a lost chapter that no one was really able to do what they did after ever.
What do you think? Do you think the archetype of Quetzalcoatl and Prometheus and Enki are something real?
Yes.
Like something physical?
So that,
and if so,
that opens up like a huge thing.
What do you think they were?
Okay. So that is a really, really important and really difficult question to answer.
Sorry, I don't want to cut him off, but his buttons are hanging on for dear life. His buttons are ready to pop.
Especially for people that haven't studied it and actually read tablets themselves, because it sounds, you know, like too fantastic when you describe it. Now, most people in my fields will credit everything with these lost civilizations to aliens. Most of them do. I do not. I don't think what we're thinking about is an alien in the conventional sense.
Right.
Okay.
I agree with you.
So if you take all of the traditions, if you take all of the ancient teachings, if you take Hermeticism, the Vedic cultures, you take the Mayan stuff, the Egyptian stuff, the Mesopotamian stuff, especially the Mesopotamian stuff, take all of them, take every reference to these gods, these Anuna, every single one around the world, they all like say the same thing. All of them do, especially the tablets. I counted one time how many times the Anuna are mentioned in different tablets. I have 12 different tablets that they're talked about. So their original name is not the Anunnaki. Their original name is the Anuna. That's the Sumerian term that was the pantheon of gods that were associated with the Sumerian civilization. They describe them as being the origins of everything. That humanity, about the first cities, about civilization itself, they say in the tablets that it came from them, that it was all lowered to them and in very specific places that it was created, and how we are very much more like them than the other way around. that it was described in the tablets that they created us in the image of them, and that we are nothing like anything here at all. And that's why it's so confusing, and we're so misguided. Is that they just describe, now try to wrap your head around this. They're described as being something far more than like a group coming in a ship or something. They're not talked about that at all. They're talked about as being like omnipotent.
Now we're making fun of shirts. Yes, we are. Welcome, sir. Take a seat. Why I find this interesting is because we also hear in countless UFO or alien encounters when people seem to have some kind of telepathic communication with beings of some sort, that we always sort of hear these themes of, well, one of them is impending cataclysms, unfortunately. The other one is that humans aren't aware of their potential, that humans have so much more to give, and that they are so much more powerful than they realize, if only they knew. So there's this idea that like humans have this innate power, and it kind of goes into the things that we were speaking about recently, where I was saying, well, we were sort of suggesting that what if it's our ability to manifest? Like what if humans are useful because we are like creators? We create worlds in a way by collective belief of people. We are then kind of weaving reality through that. I wonder if that's what makes humans special. Because I mean, like, what is the placebo effect, right? We spoke about this the other day. What is the placebo effect? I wonder if humans' special ability is something like we are creators. The same way, and that some kind of higher intelligence that is perhaps smarter than us, but does not have this ability to create, is using us. And not quite, because like, why would they tell us? The reason why, like, what I'm trying to get at here is the dog analogy is such a good one. And the way that we used to use dogs to hunt, right? The dog had this amazing ability to smell, to track. They're fast, they're good hunters, right? The dog could have survived without us. The dog could go hunt its own food. It could kill and eat. It didn't need humans. But I guess like for some reason, the human, being a more intelligent being, but still lacked the abilities that the dog had, was able to kind of like, I guess manipulate the dog, or perhaps give it something that the dog liked, and therefore it would hunt for the human. I wonder if in some sense we are kind of used that way, but with our ability to manifest. And perhaps we are getting something in return for it that we don't even realize. I don't know. You can kind of see my line of thinking there, but that would make sense to me. That something more intelligent than us is just kind of using our special ability to manifest, but it wouldn't be beneficial to kind of let us know how good we are at it, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? They're talking about as being eternal, and that they are fractals of source. Okay? Hermeticism is my favorite one. The conversation with Poimander and Hermes is my favorite conversation regarding that, because he asks about the nature of everything, and like he's talking to Source, and Source is coming through as a dragon, which is really interesting because Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan are both dragons.
Right.
So is our traditions
Feathered
in ancient
serpent.
China. Mm-hmm. They're feathered serpents, which is like a dragon. And so over and over again, we see that archetype being shown back. Now, why a dragon? Well, a dragon's just a metamorphosized serpent to its highest form. Simple as that. So the snake is really interesting.
The snake is the same. The snake is described in at least one section as being a feathered serpent.
Yeah, because they're the same thing. That's why the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve are tempted by a snake.
Right.
It's just Enki. That's why Enki became demonized by later corrupted religions that then turned him into like a demon.
Right.
That's where that whole thing came from. They inverted so many things.
They inverted
so
many
all kinds of things throughout history to make it the opposite. I'll give you an example. We know
And that's
that,
why they try to connect. That's why they connect Prometheus with the devil.
Okay, yeah, like let's pull this up really quick. It'll be super easy. Look up the caduceus or the rod of Asclepius, the medical symbol, right?
Yep.
Do we know what that is?
Yep. The
Here we
snakes
go.
wrapping around each other.
If the snake is evil, why is on our most prominent area that has to do with health is, go to an image really
Yep.
quick.
Is the rod of Asclepius.
Okay, so there's two different symbols so people don't get confused. The caduceus is the one with the wings that is related back to Hermes. Okay, now that is two serpents intertwined around a spinal cord, our spinal cord. And the reason they show the wings is that they're showing that if we
Right.
unlock our chakras of higher consciousness and energy, we basically unlock something.
Ooh. Ooh. Damn. See, and guys, if you're enjoying this so far, we are literally just getting started here, because this is kind of where this whole conversation goes, is that something about like tapping back into source, where we came from, learning how to control your mind, reconnecting with reality, unlocks something that we all have inside of us. And he absolutely cooks on this. And we're going to keep going, but I just want to catch up on some super chats before we get too far behind. Perfect Harmony, thank you for becoming a member again. I appreciate you. Stevie gifted 5 memberships. Stevie, you are a legend, sir. Thank you very much. Let's get some love for Stevie and the 5 freaks in the chat. Brett says, Australia misses you, brother. Much love. Thank you very much, Brett. Appreciate the 2 months, bro. And Cameron says, every royal divine right everywhere globally descend from people taught by advanced others from the ocean, underworld, and space. They have always claimed what government officials say regarding NHI and UAP. Cameron, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you. And 420 Breezy says, say it like Texas. You feel me? You feel me? How's that?
That's what they were leaving behind, is all of the knowledge. And the other version of this is called the rod of Asclepius. That's the one that became the medical symbol in the United States.
Right.
It's a slightly different version
And it's
of that,
also
but it's similar.
2 snakes having sex.
Well, they're intertwined around each other.
That's what snakes do. And have you seen a video of snakes fornicating?
Yeah.
It's insane. Carl.
Snakes fornicating is like Danny Jones's like chimpanzee thing. You know how Rogan always brings up how crazy chimps are? Snakes having sex is like the Danny Jones version.
Ruck was talking about this on one of his videos. He's a classical scholar.
Also,
Studies ancient Greek.
2 snakes would probably represent the divine masculine and feminine that exists in all of us. Okay? And those 2 snakes, when they dance and merge their energies in balance, they unlock the highest state we can. That's why every tradition and everything has been trying to tell us this, and we're not paying attention. And that's why those symbols, why would the snake be so evil and demonized if it's on 2 of our most prominent symbols that go all the way back? Because it was inverted. It was inverted from its opposite meaning. And it goes all the way back to the very beginning. The very beginning of a battle over controlling our mind, controlling our thoughts. And it goes all the way back to the very beginning of that. Again, we just talked about the story of Adam and Eve, right, in the garden, where Enki the snake tempts Adam with the knowledge of good and evil, and then they get kicked out and they learn awareness and all this stuff, right?
And this, like, if you've been watching the shows this week, this literally connects to what we've been saying. He's talking about how there's been an age-old battle for your mind and for your thoughts, right? For some reason, being able to dominate like the general consensus of what people believe and people's minds has been and is important for all of time. Why would that be? Well, perhaps because what we collectively believe and agree upon becomes reality, because we are creators, we are manifestors. Like it makes sense. It literally makes sense. Why would there be such a strong battle for our minds that seems to be going on for an eternity? Because whatever we agree upon and collectively believe in manifests into reality and becomes real, because that is what we do. We are creators and manifestors. It makes too much sense. It's just one of those things that makes too much sense.
Why would that be a bad thing?
Right.
Well, it's considered a bad thing because monotheistic religions ended up becoming very controlled. That it all started with the Council of Nicaea.
Yep.
You know about that. And so it was like a put together book with some stories that were older that were rewritten, and then other things that were used as a form of manipulation, right? We know that Jesus said that the path of reaching him, the state that he's in, is just the kingdom of heaven is found within. He didn't tell you to follow a church or anything. And yet to this day, churches reorganize that message into him being a savior that we have to follow, but we don't become that. Like we can't be our own savior. They flipped it. They switched it around to what it was never supposed to be all along. It would end up being a form of control.
Yeah.
Yes, Matthew. Yes, Matthew. I would like fries with that, sir. Keep going.
But in the original form, all these esoteric teachings and mysticism, their whole goal was to take the ancient knowledge of what once was and then incorporate it into us and then unlock basically like our God side. Like we become something far greater. Right. And that's what every ascended master throughout history, whether or not it's Krishna, Jesus, or Buddha, or any of them, have all been saying the exact same thing.
Right.
Every time. And yet we choose to not connect them and listen. And it's profound because we could be something far greater than we are. And we're just being held back by things that are, quite frankly, just like illusions.
Oh, we're only in the first clip. This is the first clip, and we already have an absolute banquet on the table here. I just want to listen to this bit one more time, just at the end here.
Written, and then other things that were used as a form of manipulation, right? We know that Jesus said that the path of reaching him, the state that he's in, is just the kingdom of heaven is found within. He didn't tell you to follow a church or anything. And
can we get that on a t-shirt? The kingdom of heaven is found within. I've said it before, heaven and hell is a state of mind. You don't look, and I don't want to sound like I'm talking shit on churches or people who go to church, by the way. I feel like if you do that and it makes you happier and it improves your quality of life, go for it. All the power to you. But I think what Matthew is saying here is absolute fire. And the point of it is, the reason why it's fire is because it gives you the power back. The one thing that sort of doesn't sit right with me when it comes to churches and that general way of going about things is that people are sort of waiting for something. They're waiting for like a savior. They're waiting for something else to come and fix, or they're relying on something or someone else, right? This line of thinking puts that power back into you. And at the end of the day, you are the only one that can change your own life, right? No one's coming to save you. And I don't mean that in a religious context, but also that as well. No one's coming to save you. If you want your life to change, you have to do it. If you keep just sitting around wondering for something to change or someone to come and help you, that's just you're probably going to be there for a long, long time. Yeah, look, that's not the best pause frame I've done on Matt there. I apologize, Matt. That's a little bit better. The buttons look a bit less stressed too. But yes, that is why I really like this line of thinking, because it puts the power back in you and it enables you it empowers you to make changes in your life. Kellatrix, celebrating 1 month as a member, says, Baguette Gang. Thank you very much, Kellatrix. Appreciate you. Johnny Blacklight says, love the content, sending good vibes. My man, Johnny, thank you very much for the $5, bro. And Rain says, we need to go back to trusting our intuition, our gut feeling. We are so much more capable than they want us to be aware of. My man, Rain, my man, can we get that one on a t-shirt as well, please? I feel like we could print a whole new merch line just based on quotes from today's show. Absolutely nailed it, Rain. Thank you very much, bro. Love it. Love it. Love it. We're on one today. I'm feeling good. And the internet connection is holding up. Everything is coming up Millhouse. Let's go. Next clip.
You get into this idea that goes all the way back to also the Vedic and Hindu traditions, what's called the Trimurti. Can you pull up the Trimurti for me? Trimurti.
Find that. I got to take a leak real quick.
Okay.
We'll be right back. So what are we looking at here?
So again, we're looking at these concepts and these teachings that seem to pass around the world. Mm-hmm. You just have to go to India and find a direct comparison to it. Mm-hmm. So when I showed you that last relief showing Haldi and then his counterpoint on the other side and then the Tree of Life, here in India, you have what's called the Trimurti. Now what the Trimurti is the ancient understanding in Vedic and Hindu cultures about the three fractal components that make up reality. So I mentioned that there was a fractal component that makes us too. Remember, everything seems to be fractals, which is what's really fascinating, meaning that we seem to be a fractal of the entire universe in some ways.
Yes.
It's really weird when you look into actually the comparisons of us in terms of how we, or even like we have the same percentage of water as the earth, like the same like iron in our blood that runs it. We seem to be a fractal of everything else. And so those concepts are within us, but they're also on the greater scheme of things.
So my understanding of that little sort of passing comment that he just mentioned there is that he's saying the ratio of iron in our bodies is the same as the ratio of iron found on Earth? Does anyone know like a bit more on that? I'm only kind of grasping what I've just picked up in that comment. But has anyone heard that before? Because that's extremely interesting, in my opinion. Toxic Fart says, it disturbs me when Danny Jones and Jesse Michaels say all the time, and it's how they say it. Where my Suki Camo and Jostradamus. I think I say a lot. I mean, it's hard, especially when you're doing a live stream, it's hard not to. But there you go. There it is. I don't necessarily know if it's a bad thing, though. I think sometimes it's just people thinking out loud. You heard it too? Yeah, I feel like I'm now going to notice it, just like how apparently many people never notice Ross Coulthard going every time he goes to talk, and now I've kind of ruined News Nation for thousands of people around the world. Sorry.
So for instance, in the Trimurti, it's described that there's three guardians that basically manage and balance all of reality. Everything, that it's not random at all. In fact, that everything is being carefully managed in our universe. And that they describe it as being the center, or we think of as Brahma, their version of Brahma, or we could consider it like almost like the tree of life on that previous relief. They consider like God or source. And the reason they often show it in nature is that the ancient cultures believed that source or God was simply in everything, but especially in the balances of how nature flourishes and grows. Like nature itself is God. That's what they described it as.
Right.
However, they state that growing and that flourishing is not the difficult thing to happen. That happens no matter what. It's the balancing of that's hard. That they describe that the two on either side, that's what their roles and responsibilities are in the universe. Meaning that the individual on the right is known as Vishnu, and he would be the equivalent of Haldi. And his role is he is a preserver of knowledge. He is a fertility god, preserver of knowledge, and balancer of cycles. And on the left is what we think of as Shiva, the destroyer.
Right.
Now, that equivalent in Urartian was showed is, well, the other mural is called Shiva. And it's like that everywhere in the world. Like if you look at even other traditions like we see with Zeus and others, this counterpoint is very important because they describe source being the center of everything, and that there are beings that have to maintain both the preservation and creation and balance of life, as well as the destruction of it. So this may help people understand a little bit more, is that the figure on the left, Shiva, his job is literally to be a god of destruction and renewal. So destroying old things and like a war god, like all those things. And whereas the opposite is Vishnu is trying to preserve that knowledge and balance it. Now, why does that make sense? Well, go back to ancient Mesopotamia. What is Enlil and Enki doing over and over and over again in every tablet? Do you know?
Remind me.
They're playing duality gods of each other. Always, no matter what. Every single text. Enki is this god of knowledge and wisdom, and then Enlil is always trying to destroy it. He was the one in the Garden of Eden that banished them.
Right.
It was never really God. It was him. He was the one who banished them. He's the one that creates cycles of destruction and war here and deception. That's his job.
Right.
That's what his role and responsibility here, while at the same time, Enki's job is to maintain balance and basically pollinate the tree of life to continue it growing. So it grows eternally. They are, if we want to try to understand what the way that they describe themselves in all Hermetic texts, all ancient traditions, all Mesopotamian texts, they call them, they're basically cycle masters and time lords. If you wanted to try to wrap your head around that without
cycle masters and time lords. And it's interesting how they are kind of like polar opposites, right? It's like the polarity of what their roles are. Like I've said before, it's almost like you need a polarity, or you need you need friction to move forward. And that these two beings, Enki and Enlil, are described as time lords or cycle masters. Like they're creators and enablers of the cycle. And it's almost like the friction of, how could you put it? Good versus evil, dark versus light, negative versus positive. That friction is what propels the cycle. If there was only one, then it's like how it seems like it would sort of, if it existed, it wouldn't exist in the way that it does today. I mean, I don't know that, but it does, even though like we often talk about like, how can we rid the world of evil or whatever, it's almost like you sort of need something to balance it out. Without balance, it would be skewed. Exactly right, Jen. Exactly right. Coke versus Pepsi. Yep, sure. That works as well. Good versus evil, Coke versus Pepsi. Basically the same thing. Barbados. Exactly. You're on the money. Benjamin says, I think the spinal fluid is sacred Christos, which links up with his perspective, along with it also looking like our DNA strands waiting, achieves nothing, enjoy some bintang, brother. Yeah, look, someone before was saying about like Kundalini and like where's the proof and all that kind of stuff. I would say when it comes to, the idea of our life essence traveling up our spinal cords with our spinal fluid and back down and all that kind of stuff, the evidence is within, and you have to actually try it yourself. And when you do, tell me you don't feel the difference. Tell me you don't feel the difference. Come on. Yvonne Pandora says, Josh, are you sending merch to the US? Yes. The merch store is still functioning. The link is below. You can get yourself some weirdo merch. It is printed and shipped from the US. So if you're ordering in the US, you will get it very quickly. Bleak, celebrating 7 months as a member, says, yo, this guy is how my journey started. My man. Thank you very much, brother. Good to see you here. And let's keep going with this clip. We've got about a minute, 2 minutes of this one left.
Losing everybody who's listening to this is they describe themselves as literally like time lords and cycle masters of everything.
Interesting.
Of the entire universe. And that's what their roles and responsibilities are. And that they were the ones who created our solar system so that this story can unfold. And that they've been managing this all along. And that we're created in their image to eventually become like them. And that all of this is actually just grooming us to become like we were meant to all along. All of it. And that's why all the esoteric traditions, and why at Ionis, it shows Haldi bending down on one knee and passing that solar cross and all of that, because they lowered the greatest divine knowledge of all time. And it led to what I believe was a golden age on Earth. And that's when they built all the things they did and left behind everything they left behind. And then they were wiped out and destroyed. And then we are putting the pieces back together and finding our way back to where we began. It's all about the wandering and the journey as a microcosm of humanity. Our journey of wandering is part of this. We're supposed to start from a spiritual place of deep connection to the all.
Right.
And we come into a material body and we experience incarnation over and over and over again, as many times as is necessary, until we finally walk that path that I've been describing, that they've been basically screaming at us about, that we're not paying attention to, which is that they're leaving behind the blueprints back to where we began, back to source. And if we just follow them and listen to all the knowledge that they were trying to leave behind for us, we can unlock those doors just like they did.
Interesting, right? What I find really interesting about that last comment there about, how we all kind of start at this one point, we incarnate in a physical body, as many times as necessary until we sort of walk that path back to where we started. It's interesting to hear him say that. And then when you look at pretty much every single near-death experience, what do people say? They say that they basically feel like they went home, that they were back where they came from, that they remembered, that they were sort of always this, and that what was happening on Earth was just like a temporary experience. Like, these are all themes that people who have died temporarily and came back, they basically, everyone who remembers that experience says something similar to that, right? That they go back to this place of like just complete love, peace, and joy, and that they realize that that is what they always were, that is where they always came from, and that this is just like a learning experience, like a temporary learning experience for your soul that will incarnate as many times as possible until you figure out the things that you need to figure out to get back to source. I guess the big question with that, though, is like, why? I wonder why. Maybe that's how like a soul grows. Maybe that's how like maybe a soul can't mature or learn lessons in the astral, in like a non-physical realm. You kind of have to come here, and you kind of have to sort of start fresh. And what I mean by that is like, you know, we often talk about how we're like a species with amnesia. Well, maybe that's by design, because if we remembered, then we wouldn't take it seriously. Do you know what I mean? Which, you know, people often say like, when you like, are we wasting time trying to like dig into disclosure and UFOs and the truth? Because one day when we pass, we're going to remember it all anyway. It's interesting, right? Josh Bartlett says, "What's up, fellow weirdos? Aztec Crash 1948 is a fascinating retrieval. Next bintang is on me, Joshy. My man, thank you very much. Look, I probably had enough bintangs for the week last night. I did wake up feeling a little bit crusty today. But look, we're here and we're doing it. The show will always go on. Rain, hail, storm, or 40 bintangs. Yep. Did we finish that clip? We did. Okay, well, let's get on to the next one now. Matt cites a little bit of Graham Hancock here, in that our history is built on foundations of sand. Here we go.
Our history is been built on a foundation of sand. It will just wash away because it has no structure. It has no foundation. Once this all opens up, and we'll understand this lost chapter, it will open up every door that we've ever wanted, because they seem to have mastered all the things that matter most. Like understanding the nature of source and creation, understanding the blueprint of everything in the universe, understanding those celestial forces that maintain that, understanding our role and who we are in that, understanding how we were created and what the gifts that we have that are like them, and how we've largely been kept in a place of controlling our consciousness and controlling that inevitable truth of understanding, because the nature of reality is two things. One, it's cyclical, meaning it's never permanent, it's always changing. And two, and always returning where it's cyclical, like starting somewhere and then ending up where it began. And then two, duality and polarity are fundamental constants in the universe, meaning that if there is light, there is dark. If there is good, there is evil. And those roles are being fundamentally played, very much so, to the point where when we try to understand how our world became so dark and so war-driven and so controlled, we simply need to understand that it was an inevitable plan, I believe, as part of an understanding of, if you ever heard of that term, with great power comes great responsibility, right? You see it in all the Marvel movies. Do you really think that Danny Jones should have great powers and be able to do great things if he doesn't know how to appreciate it and uses it poorly, or doesn't have like a deep understanding of it? Do you deserve to have those things?
No, Danny. The answer is no. Come on, have you not watched Spider-Man? My God.
I don't know.
No, you don't, because you're not going to use them in the right way. It looks the entire, when you read all the tablets and you start getting into understanding who the Anuna are and how they talk about them being the ordainers of destinies and how they're like chained to our reality. And in ancient Gnosticism, through the Nag Hammadi, they're called archons, like the controllers of our reality, and how they're described as ordaining the entire destiny of us. And every event and everything that happens is actually part of like a great story.
Right.
And that the whole purpose is to allow us to be tested to see what path we ultimately take.
And we are literally living in the Marvel universe. It's funny that he used that specific quote, and it is a great quote, by the way, and it makes a lot of sense. And I feel like you probably don't even need to watch Spider-Man to have gotten that answer correct, but that's okay. But the reason why I bring up the Marvel universe is, one, the fact that, I mean, like, do you guys remember when we were looking at like the Jack Parsons stuff? First of all, Jack Parsons' actual real name, the name that he was born with, is Marvel. And what was it that we were looking at about like there's something about the Marvel universe and like the Jack Parsons story and what they were doing when they were like opening portals and summoning the Scarlet Woman. There is a big connection to like this idea of like a multiverse and the storyline of Marvel and Jack Parsons and what they were doing. And obviously, you know, Credo Mortua, he talked about the Chitauri. In 1999, he spoke about the Chitauri, which were an advanced race of reptilian beings that were manipulating humanity's minds. And then 3 years later, what came into the Marvel universe? The Chitauri, which were an advanced race of reptilian beings that were technologically superior, that disguised themselves as humans, but were actually here to take over and manipulate actual humans. And they were actually reptilians. And I believe in the Marvel lore, they also have some kind of connection to the Nazis in World War II that was then defeated by Captain America. I'm just relaying the Marvel story. Kind of weird, isn't it? Maybe that's just that's in the same vein as, you know, like The Abyss, They Live, all the other documentaries that we've watched, Men in Black. Yep. It's all real. As the Grand Maester Richard Dolan would say, what if it's all real?
Whether or not we're tempted with great technology and great power, whether or not we actually follow and take the right steps necessary to be able to understand something greater and deeper. I'm not interested in a bunch of fun little tech. I'm interested in understanding how an ancient civilization could have used their voice to move stones. That's what I'm interested in. How do they move?
I just did a synchronized with Danny. Oh, yeah, he's cooking now. Come on, Matt. Give it to me.
1,000-ton megaliths.
Right.
We're not asking the right questions. We need to start understanding that this entire civilization that we're exploring, that left all of this knowledge there for us, we're just ignoring and we're not paying attention to it. Whereas it may have the answers to everything that we're really asking, like the most important questions of all. Who are we? What is our role here? What are we supposed to be doing? Other questions like, what powers do we have? What have we forgotten? Who are we? Who are we supposed to be?
Yeah.
Like the most important questions of all, they seem to have mastered all of them. And that all esoteric traditions, all teachings, whether it's Vedic teachings or teachings from Gnosticism or Hermetic teachings or the Popol Vuh and ancient Mayan teachings or Egyptian teachings or Mesopotamian teachings or Tibetan teachings, Chinese teachings, Lao Tzu, they're all the same thing. They're all a giant collection of understandings of how we, as powerful beings, can follow a certain archetype and unlock a doorway.
Right.
Unlock a doorway that takes us somewhere that technology does not take us.
Well, human beings certainly have abilities.
Oh, yes, we do, for sure.
That most people aren't aware of.
Agreed.
Right. I think one of the best evidences for that is like things like the Stargate program that the military was spending lots of money on to get people to do things like remote view, astral projection. There's this guy, what's his name? The Jewish physicist who wrote about the
Isaac Bentov.
What are those papers called? The declassified CIA papers where they talk about consciousness and astral projection.
That's not the Adam story, is it? You're talking about a different one?
And yeah, not the Adam and Eve story. Yeah, it's a different one. God damn it, why am I blanking on this?
Are you talking about gateway experience?
The
Okay.
the gateway experience. Yes, thank you, Steve. There's clearly been a correlation with the rise in technology and the atrophy of the psychic mind.
Yes,
and
exactly.
the atrophy of psychic abilities.
Yes.
Right. So it seems like the rise in the technical analytical mind has correlated with the atrophy of the psychic mind.
Yes.
And I think that even like, if you want to use the most extreme example of human beings before we had the written word or before we had the technology to offload our memories onto other devices. Now we have phones, but back then we had
Tablets.
Yeah. Things like this. Like we probably had some extraordinary abilities that are inherent in us, that are ancient, that have just been non-existent since we've been in this industrial technological world.
A lot longer
for the
than that
last
too.
few-
Yeah, even longer than that. Mm-hmm. No, I 100% agree. That's the new future.
And that's why people like have you ever
Ooh, that's the new future, baby. Come on.
gone into like the Amazon rainforest or a place that's completely uninhabited, way far away from civilization, and like had that experience of like
Touching grass.
deep senses sort of like waking up in you
Yes.
and like
That's-
hearing the birds, the insects.
That's what I was trying to explain when I was talking about how we've been disconnected from what matters the most. The earth and grounding is one of the essential components that every mysticism teaching encapsulates and says basically there are these tenets that we must follow if we want to reach those higher levels. And if we don't, if we try to skip them, we won't. We'll be shut down and prevented. And again, that whole conversation of who's preventing us is another whole thing we can talk about. But the point is that if you decide to see through the illusion, you can end up becoming something far greater.
Oh, when you see through the illusion, you can become something far greater. But I think the biggest point, or the biggest hurdle there is, I don't know if convincing is the right word, but like, how do you make people realize that it's an illusion? Or how do people realize what the illusion is? That's the tough part. But once they do, or once you do, once anyone does, it is almost like a whole other, you realize that there is a whole other side to reality. And, the thing is though, and actually, I think they're going to get it. Actually, they're going to get into this in the next clip. So I won't say too much. But they talk about how like knowledge has been suppressed, and that it's initially was for good reason, because like for some people that realization can be too much. Like it's kept hidden because you kind of have to be prepared, be at the right stage, either like mentally or have gone through, be in the right place in your life to begin to actually digest this information in like a healthy way. And that in the beginning, this knowledge was suppressed for that reason, and only to be given, to the initiates and to the people who were prepared. But then at some point, it was like most things, becomes corrupted, and it then gets withheld as a form of establishing power, because knowledge is power. I mean, if you know the truth of reality and the world that you live in, and you withhold it over a bunch of other people, you are automatically going to be more powerful than them and have an ability to manipulate them, because you just know more. You know how life works, and they don't. Rain says, if the pineal gland releases DMT as we die, it might explain visions, maybe even act as our bridge to whatever's next. Absolutely. And then it makes you wonder what is actually going on then when people take DMT in a more recreational sense. Are they literally getting to peer beyond the veil temporarily? I think possibly. Toxic Fart says, here's another $5 for streaming at this time. Thank you very much, sir. Very kind of you. And Bleak says, what a man Matt is. I agree. What an absolute legend. I'm so glad we're covering him. And I hope it's not the last time either. All right, this is the last clip, though. It's a bit of a longer one, so we still got fair bit more to go. This is Matt on suppressed knowledge.
There's a lot of things that we can't measure, but they're still really important towards understanding things that we shouldn't, I think, almost like disregard because they're not super tangible. Like, for instance, if we look at ancient mysticism and esoteric traditions of going into deep meditative states and having out-of-body experiences and lighting up your chakras through your spinal cord like we see with the Caduceus symbol, like all this ancient, like almost like magic that we seem to laugh at and not think is real in most cases, and yet it may be the answers to all of, like, everything.
Why do we laugh at it though? Like, why has it become such a weird stigmatized thing that normie society likes to paint as like kooky?
Because we've been conditioned that way. So our entire life and our generations before us are based on civilization emerging out of an industrial age. It's based on industrial machines and technologies that completely disconnect us from the earth. They don't bring us closer together to the universe and the earth. They disconnect us. So our entire civilization is building itself on the principles of just acquire more, grow, accumulate all the resources you can, and just be like,
like just a gluttonous monster, just like a machine designed to consume, and that's it.
I'm kind of a conquering monster here, rather than realizing that the depth of what we really are and what we can become, they seem to have mastered. And they were able to do things that we have no idea about today.
Maybe that's why they got wiped out. They were becoming they were getting too close to the gods.
Well,
they were becoming too much like the gods.
Mel Tulip says devouring the world. Dark, but kind of true.
And I would say, like, what's a more advanced culture? Us or them? I don't know if I can answer that, because it depends on what you want to call advanced. It depends on what you want to call, like, if you want to call something superior to something else. I would argue that a lot of the things that we have now are detrimental towards our understanding of something greater, because
100%.
we choose to hide from it. We choose to ignore it because I think that it's scary and it's something that is unknown to the world, that they don't even believe it's real. Like, people don't believe that. Like, if you were to say magic and talk about magic, people are like, oh, you're talking about like sleight of hand magic with cards and stuff? No. Like ancient esoteric mysticism magic.
Right.
Like, but they're going to laugh at that. People will like smear and make faces, and you're like, so you start to look into what these...
Magic was synonymous with religion in antiquity.
They were...
Jesus was doing magic.
Yeah.
Music and drugs.
They
and
were
ritual.
magic.
Yes.
That's the whole point, is
so
that...
the Eleusinian Mysteries was.
Exactly. So the real question we need to ask is, how much have we lost? How much have we forgotten who we really are? And how much do the things we have actually disconnect us from what matters the most? And I mean, I mean that, like, if you never ever go out into nature, you don't meditate, you don't ground yourself with any of it, you're always going to be disconnected.
Matthew LaCroix, my word. This man is creating a whole merch line of things that need to be put on a t-shirt right now.
Never be connected to it, because the core of it, the first thing you must do, it's in every ancient tradition, throughout Vedic traditions and throughout Gnostic traditions, is the importance of having an understanding of the all, having an understanding of the universe, Earth, like our roles within that, what consciousness is, what energy is. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It only changes state. So then why do we think we die? Do we really die? Mm-hmm. Or does our spirit, our consciousness live forever, eternally? Every civilization from this time period was obsessed with the afterworld, the afterlife, and the underworld. Mm-hmm. They were obsessed with it. Mm-hmm. The Egyptians used to try to map out, if someone died, they would try to map out their path of their souls and try to have them reincarnate again. Mm-hmm. Same thing in India.
Ancient cultures were obsessed with the idea of dying and rising gods, and it's repeated throughout history, going back thousands of years before Jesus Christ.
And yet we're conditioned into that the brain creates consciousness, and we die, and then that's it. We just go in and we never exist again. So it creates this perpetual system of fear throughout everything, and like traps people. Like it enchains them in this ideology that prevents them from seeing the higher truths of what they really are. And that's why I think the entire purpose why this entire chapter of human civilization, this lost civilization, why it's been so pushed at or prevented from becoming known and suppressed in many cases. It's because if it became true, like known about them, we would fundamentally shift everything we think about who we are, everything. Like this whole world of what we created would somewhat crumble, I think.
Do you think
It's not often that I want to pause and talk, but I just can't because he's just cooking so hard that I have to let him keep going. But wow, he's talking about that, like keeping people in a state of fear is like keeping people in some kind of like mental chains, and it stops people from like progressing. Well, I guess he's talking on like a spiritual and kind of mental sense, but I think also physically too. Like, Matt Brown said that we live in a matrix, right? That we live in, I think he said something like we live in a prison with like imaginary walls or invisible walls, or he said something like that. And it's so true. Like people are in like a state of, not everyone, by the way, but a lot of people are in this kind of state of like paralysis, both mentally and physically. And not physically in the sense of like they literally are frozen, obviously, but like, they don't want to venture out of where they live, or they think the world is a really scary place. Like there's just so much bullshit that is pumped into people's minds that just kind of keeps them in a box and on a hamster wheel, which is just, go to work, come home, you know what I mean? Like they're just stuck in the system. It keeps them in the system. I think that's what it seems to be designed to do. And it's extremely effective, unfortunately. Guys, by the way, if you're enjoying this, slap a like on the video for Mr. Matt LaCroix. My God, what an absolute chef he is, cooking us up an absolute feast today. And like I said, the link to this full podcast is below. I highly recommend you guys go and watch it if you're enjoying this episode. Burley Bob says, having Matthew LaCroix on is a gift. He's a hell of an explorer. I've watched everything that he's done. Thank you for having this interview tonight. The grand illusion is real. Look through the veil. Thank you very much. And I mean, I can't take full credit. This is Danny Jones's interview. I'm just covering it. But maybe one day we could get Matt on the channel. I would absolutely love to do that. P Cadix, you little freak. Thank you for becoming a member. Rain says superiority is the realization that we are equal. Ego is the end of civilization. History told me, my man. Thank you very much. And David has thrown in $10 and said wrecked. I think Matt is absolutely wrecking the general consensus of reality. He's absolutely putting an ace on that right now.
there's knowledge that is being hidden
Yes.
about these people that
100%.
somebody like a group of people have that is just they're keeping it from the world?
What we see,
Or do you think that's what Zahi Hawass is doing?
no, it's not Zahi. He's
Okay.
just a gatekeeper for something higher.
Right.
So
he just seems like a guy who's prostituting himself for money and political power. And
what we saw happen all the way back to ancient Babylon and then throughout the Roman time period was this idea of controlling thoughts, controlling people's thoughts and how they view things. And it was done so as a means of control.
even
So,
now.
Yeah, it's still being done. But back then it was even being done on another level. I think because the world we lived in, like you've seen the whole idea, like the whole Roman games thing, right? Rome was in a state of collapse and people were super unhappy. So what they did is they created games to entertain them and distract them from the greater problems of the empire. Like much like we sometimes do today. And it causes people to not care about about asking important questions because they're just being entertained. And then that entertainment usually comes along with like a conditioning of violence.
Right.
So those things are being used, were used as a tool.
Yes.
And so what happened was secret societies used to exist all throughout history and were very important. The role of secret societies was to bridge the gap of older traditions and knowledge and carry them forward, because they realized that a lot of this knowledge was just not something that the average person they really would understand or get. And so it wasn't always about necessarily like a hiding. It was originally more about what they call like like someone who's like an adept, someone who is already that kind of mindset. And so they bring them in and they would teach them and they would bring them in. They're called mystery schools. Okay, go back all the way throughout history, these ancient mystery schools. And it was recognized very early on that the average peasant or person that lives their life, like, they wouldn't understand. And they considered it something where it ended up having to be kept within certain fractals of society. And that was not done intentionally as a way to hide knowledge from everybody, but eventually it was. So eventually, those secret societies that were maintaining and protecting that knowledge, they ended up becoming really very corrupted and they used that knowledge as a form of control, as saying, like, we have a deep understanding of the psychology of humans and the nature of them and the nature of who we really are. And so that knowledge at first that was being guarded within certain groups then became hidden. And then the average person, like, couldn't even get access to it at all. Even people that wanted to know,
Right.
It was only in these upper echelons. And so what happened is, too much power ended up in certain groups. And then the very secret societies that were supposed to be the ones protecting ancient knowledge and being those keepers of knowledge ended up being the gatekeepers of everything. They flipped it. They ended up becoming the ones that were controlling, and their viewpoints often, and it's funny as you can get little glimpses of it during interviews and different things, is they often say that humanity are basically like sheep and they're not ready for understanding, like, the greater truths of everything. And so they do it as a means of protecting them, which I think is bullshit.
Yeah.
I think that whole idea of keeping us in a
Parent-child
conditioned
relationship,
lower form of consciousness simply because they're protecting us. What really is the truth is that it's a system of creating control and keeping people in, like, an industrial type of mentality for working and not asking questions, which is why the Rockefeller education system in the United States that was developed by Rockefeller was developed during World War II, because it was developed as a curriculum that would create a worker just educated enough to do regular tasks, but not educated enough to like a high level to ask questions and to go into a deeper place. Is
Like we were just saying before, to get people on the hamster wheel and not allow them to even think about the realm of possibility that there could be more beyond the hamster wheel. In fact, the programming is so strong that the people who, kind of like us, who may suggest to those on the hamster wheel that there may be more, the masses on the hamster wheel turn around to people like us and think we are the crazy ones. Meanwhile, we're just watching them like, bro, I feel bad for you. I feel for you. I feel for you, dude. But at the end of the day, like Matt said earlier, we will all reincarnate here over and over until we figure out a way to walk that path. And that's something that I often think about, even when I'm like dealing with people making like retarded comments on this channel or any of my channels, or anything in life. At the end of the day, everyone is on their own path and they will learn things at different speeds. Some people may not even learn them at all in this lifetime. Some people might learn something in their 20s that the next person learns when they're 65. Or I might learn something when I was 15 that someone will never even figure out in this lifetime. Everyone's finding their way back in their own way, on their own path, in their own time. And like, you can't hold that against anybody. It's just the way that it works. And you should also never get frustrated, or like, you should never try to make someone see things the way you do, because that's kind of futile as well, because people are just, again, that they're doing it their own way. And that's the way it's meant to be. They're not meant to do it like you. You're you, they're them. It's just the way it is.
very, very cleverly designed the Rockefeller education system so that people are literally created into a mindset that blocks all of these things that we're talking about out. Even the idea, I'll give you an example, just a simple one, is the idea that if something is old, it has to be primitive. That is ingrained in people, ingrained. So to the point where if I show someone Ionis, I'm like, look at this andesite stonework, it's spectacular. They're like, that looks like it was just built. That's their mentality, is that instead of thinking that anything old is primitive, How about it's not linear at all, is that
Right.
most of all the advanced stonework and the amazing stuff is actually the oldest, and that the primitive looking adobe and stuff came from way later because we were reset. We lost everything. We forgot, and we had to go back to starting fires and hunter gathering again. And then when we rose back up again, we had no idea how to do any of the things that they did. No
Yeah.
idea. And so that's where the confusion came in over other cultures building on top of much more older structures and then getting credit for building them.
I want to touch back on that.
Stevie says Lake Van equal Matt LaCroix. I actually had I had more clips to put into the show today that I just didn't because I wasn't sure how long it was going to run. But, you know, I've been saying I want to do a members only stream, and I haven't done one since I've been here in Bali. So I think tonight, now that I think I've figured out the internet and I don't think we're going to have choppy internet anymore, fingers crossed. I think I'm going to do a live stream tonight on the members only section where we just kind of hang out and chat like we always do. But I think maybe I'll include maybe one or two more clips specifically about the Lake Van stuff and, you know, ancient apocalypse and things like that. So I think that'll be tonight over in the members section. I'm looking forward to it.
Rockefeller point you made, is that when the schools, the modern day school system was first developed?
It was the education system in the United States. So let me give you an example. If Danny Jones, you're like, okay, I want to be a teacher. The hell with this podcast thing. I'm done. Right. I want to go teach, I don't know, English. Right. Actually, that's not a good example. Let's say you want to teach history.
Okay.
That's better.
Perfect.
So you go in and you're like, boy, I am going to shake things up. You guys, you better look out, right? The hell with that whole Rockefeller education system. I'm going to be talking
about the Anunnaki.
We're going to talk about Anunnaki. I'm going to talk about, you know, ancient lost civilizations and like what they were building and creating and blah, blah, blah. You will be out of a job within a week. Gone. You will be fired.
Yeah.
Why? Because if a teacher is going to become a teacher, they have a very set education curriculum you have to maintain. You have to.
Right.
So if you get like a big book and you're like, oh, memorize this whole thing and that's what you're going to teach. They can't teach about anything that's outside of the curriculum or they're literally in trouble. That's what we're talking about.
And
it's
what
an
is
indoctrination.
what is the reason for that?
To keep us in an indoctrinated mindset in which we perceive reality in a completely artificial way that is not at all what it really is. That's the whole idea behind like the Truman Show and the Matrix and all that stuff. That's what it comes down to, is that it's a conditioned world in which we've been forced into a materialistic world that's disconnected us from all the things that really matter the most.
Well done, Matthew. Matthew LaCroix, ladies and gentlemen. What a man. What a man. And there's so much in that. One big thing I think is the fact that the fact that Matthew's middle button will take Danny's eye out if it pops is one thing. Thank you very much, Toxic Fart. And Stevie says he's streaming this on his 85-inch TV. My man. And Rain says, I've been to Asia. People have less, but they're happier. Maybe they're closer to what actually matters while we're over here getting wrecked by money and materialism. And dude, you know, I think I mentioned that like that was a big part of why I wanted to come to Bali and Southeast Asia, because, you know, what is that? Why are the people here so beautiful and you can just feel it? Like when you interact with them, they have such a warm smile. They're so kind and they do have so much less. So much less. So what is that? Why is that? We have so much in the West in terms of like materialism, yet we also have so much mental health problems. And, you know, it's like we're just getting like further away from like what actually matters. I 100% think that. But what I was saying was in regards to Matthew is he talks about the school system, and that he calls it like the Rockefeller school system. And like the school system sort of like fundamentally as like a structure and a system and the way it operates has never really changed. Really, I mean, obviously, you know, technology gets a little bit better. You know, kids are using iPads in their classes now, but it's still, you know, it's all, like you said, they all basically just parrot what they're told. And it comes from the very top. Like there's a set curriculum that must be taught everywhere, and it kind of creates this invisible prison that Matthew Brown spoke about, that everyone is then sort of like ushered into this invisible box that we all believe is like the borders and outlines of reality and what is acceptable and what is real and what isn't. But when you look into it, like Matt has and like many other people have, there is a whole other side to the world that people aren't told about. And I mean, it feels like people are slowly, organically waking up to that idea, or at least becoming curious of the fact and asking questions like, why is it the way that it is? Why do I feel this sort of like inherent feeling of like something is wrong? I feel uncomfortable with the way things are. That seems to be happening organically, that there really is some kind of great awakening, whatever you want to call it, some kind of shift happening, which is extremely promising. It really is. Sweet Bee's Knees, celebrating 3 months as a member, says, I'm convinced whatever he talks about, I'm convinced. He has a way of making it so exciting and probable, magical too. I totally agree. That's one thing. Not only, is the things that he's talking about fascinating, but he speaks about it with a genuine passion and excitement. And I think for people like us, that just compounds all of it, right? I mean, I'm passionate about what I do. And when I see other people who are passionate and you can just tell that they really feel this and that this is important to them and that they don't care, they're just all in on it, that resonates with me. I'm all in on that. I'm all in on Matt LaCroix. I love it. And I found it interesting too that I feel like a lot of people who who start on like the UFO topic, it always seems like there seems to be like a bit of a pipeline there, that people in the UFO topic investigating the phenomenon often, at least to some degree, like begin to then dip their toes into like ancient mystery schools, lost civilizations, alternative history, the pyramids. Like these two subjects are inherently sort of linked, probably due to the fact that that they both have elements of suppressed knowledge, like that there is a hidden side to reality. I think we can see that when we look at the pyramids, that there is something there that we aren't being told about. And that is also evident in the UFO phenomenon as well. Dusty G has just thrown in $50 for the internet bill. Dusty, thank you very much, man. That is a huge super chat. And you are a longtime supporter of the channel. I always see you in here. And I want to let you know I appreciate it, bro. I don't take it for granted. So thank you very much. The Bee's Knees with a cute little unicorn sticker, and Maggie has gifted a membership. Let's get some love in the chat for all of those guys, all of the new weirdos as well. And, I want to say on this stream, I've had a great, oh my God, both my lights are red. Wait, no, one of them is. This is the one that wasn't breaking the other day. Now that one, okay. I don't know what is going on, but something is going on with these lights where they keep turning red, and I have to go. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. Okay, it's thrown me a little bit. It has thrown me a little bit. What I wanted to say though, was that I've really had a great stream today, and I wanted to just thank you guys for supporting me and hanging out with me, and that I really feel like in today's stream, the vibes were fantastic. And I really feel like we made some kind of small contribution to raising the vibration of humanity in today's stream. I really do feel that, because sometimes I finish a stream, and like the other day, I'll be honest with you, I finished the stream. I can't remember which one it was, and I didn't feel good. I felt kind of like lower. Now I don't know if everyone else felt that. Hopefully not, but I did, and I don't really know why that was. Honestly, it could have been because the internet was giving me so much trouble and it was just bothering me. And like, when my streams don't go well, obviously that annoys me, because, I care about what I do and I want to create cool content for you guys. So I didn't feel great after the stream the other day, but after this one, I feel amazing. And I hope you guys do too. I hope you guys are feeling those good vibes. And like I said, the internet was great. I think we've got that sorted. So I'm really happy about that. So I think tonight, we're going to go live in the members only section. If you're not a member, it's only $5 a month. We do them pretty regularly. It's a little bit more personal, where we can actually kind of chat. It's kind of hard to chat with so many people here, but it's a bit more personal. I think we might look at another Matt LaCroix clip or two, and maybe, just maybe, we'll play some GeoGuessr because it has been a while. Maybe. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I think we could probably end up talking about Matt LaCroix for another hour or two. We'll see what happens. Don't be so hard on yourself, Josh. You're amazing, bro. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. I am hard on myself, which I think is a good thing because it pushes me to be better and create better. But I also do need to balance that out and be kind to myself sometimes as well. I think we all do, right? We could all be a little bit kinder to ourselves. So take that as a little reminder to be kinder to yourself today, and be kind to other people as well. Get outside, touch some grass. And for the members, I will see you guys tonight. So that's probably going to be in like 8 hours. Probably in 8 hours, I'll go live again. But for everyone else, check out the other channel, Josh Stradamus, linked below. There's probably going to be a video coming out on there in the next couple of days, giving you a bit of a tour of this and where I am and what's going on, and kind of a little day in the life of what I'm up to in Bali. And I'll probably be live publicly here on this channel in the next couple of days as well. So have a great day, have a great night wherever you are, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.